And there's a story that goes with that. Over our last year with our previous executive, we're both returning exec, and between the two of us, we have over 6 years of experience on student council. So in our last council, we had somebody who just couldn't quite separate herself, and everything was too personal.
And so the advice that we wanted to bring forward was basically like, don't make this your life. Like if it gets to the point where you're taking everything so personally, you lose your objectivity, you're gonna get frustrated, you're gonna develop resentment, and you're gonna stop being productive. So I guess the message we want to send home is that like being a part of your organization helps develop you as a person, but it doesn't define who you are. So don't make it your everything, because you're just going to stop being productive. What else did we say? And so that being said, like to kind of avoid the barrier that could create, yesterday in the decision-making session, a lot of the things that we recognized when they were talking about poor decision-making can result in resentment and frustration. We were like, wow, that's what we face with all, like everything getting too personal. So,
and it's something that we've heard a little bit about. Drew spoke about it. He said, do what you say you'll do when you're drunk, when you're sober. And it just made me think about setting an example that don't ask people on your team or people in your life to do something that you won't do yourself. So don't have a double standard, because if you're not willing to do it, how can you expect anybody on your team or anybody else to contribute and do that? Thanks, leaders all.
I'm Tian. So a few quick things about Leaders Hall this weekend. A great thing that I saw was Dr. Patrick Finn yesterday. I think it's like revolutionary that he's teaching these courses here in Alberta, and hopefully they can spread across the country, and maybe one day we can get a course together in our institution. And it brings us back to don't work so hard, like you guys just said. Be your own person and make sure you're happy, because if you're happy, you can give so much more back to the students. And the second thing is, my piece of insight for leadership is be able to give and receive feedback within your team, and don't get offended. You become a better leader and help people more if you can improve on the things you don't do as well. Now I'll pass it on to Govan or Tim.
So first quote, increase the amount of love in your life. I'm going to go home and increase the amount of love I have with my fiance. Govan has totally outdone himself with the love he's given me this week. I'm going to tell my mom and dad that I love them. I don't do that enough. And if I can give you one piece of advice, this is something I've lived by for the past 3 years. With your teammates, identify the people that you work with strengths. Empower them to do what they're passionate about, and then all you have to do is celebrate the successes, and especially the small ones.
There was a man in attendance at the beginning of this conference who's inspired me multiple times throughout the 2 years I've been involved in the SA. And the topic that man left me with that inspired me the most and resonated with me the most was very simple. I am brilliant. And in this context, I am you, and you, and you, and all of us, we are one. It's the same fight, it's the same cause, it's the same pursuit of happiness. And the sky is no longer the limit. The limit is above and beyond anything we've ever dreamed, anything our ancestors have ever dreamed, and Dr. Finn said this is the best time to be alive. Today I can tell you that I might have the power to achieve my own dreams, all of them, but together, we have the power to achieve all of our dreams together as one. And so the quote I'd like to leave you with, and I've been on a bit of a tangent, but it's something a mentor left me with 2 years ago, and I encourage you to use this for your past, your present, and of course your future. It was perfect the way it was. Thank you.
It's focusing on yourself. Who you are is how you lead. And I'm always trying to reflect on who I am so that I can be a better leader. We always sometimes think we have this image of what we want to do and everything like that, and sometimes it's just, I don't know, we have to look at ourselves and find out what our true strengths are, what we can do to help those people that we're helping out. So something that I just wanted to leave with you.
Thinking and changed how we operate a little bit was in Dr. Falkenberg's talk. She talked a lot about, or pointed out that if you want to be an effective group, you need to have effective communication, and that's driven by setting a goal, setting an outcome, that's something that you're looking for, something that you want to find. We ran as a slate at Grant MacEwan. In fact, we were the first open slate at Grant MacEwan to ever all be elected in the history of the Grant MacEwan SA.
And we didn't know each other first.
We didn't know each other first, no. Siao and Iobi had worked together in the SA. Cassie, that was her first year at Grant MacEwan, and I had just been kicking around in peer support, so I just sat down in a room and talked to some very sad people. But yeah, no, so we found that one of the reasons why we were so effective as a slate was because we had a common goal. We had sat down and we defined what it is that we wanted to do, why we were running, why we wanted to be in the Students Executive, because we wanted to serve students, because we wanted to make a difference in our SA. So we found that this was why we were able to be so efficient at delivering our message to students. And it sounds kind of like we already knew this little bit of information, but I guess that ties into the second thing, the lesson that we would like to share is that it's not always the new information that you get, it's the information that you're reminded of. It's the things that you already knew, it's the things that you already had been practicing in your lives that sometimes you need to come back and retouch on to find the strength and the direction that you already had. So if there's one thing that we'd like to leave with you, it's that don't always be looking for new information, for new solutions. Sometimes just remember the solutions that you already had. Thanks.
We're actually in a unique group. Kayla and I are coming back for our second year in our positions. I'm the president of the student union there. Kayla's the vice president internal. And Alwyn's coming into his first year as president at St. Mary's. But between us, we have 12 years of student union experience, and then a couple more years of various other committees. So we've been around the block a little bit. So one thing that we spoke about in our group was around, we saw a lot of really great presenters this week. And there was a lot of emphasis, I guess, on making changes to benefit ourselves. So Drew had a really strong and really important message about making changes in your life to make yourself happy, that if you're unhappy, you need to do something about it. We had a bald man yell at us that, if we have a friend that's hanging out with us that, is always depressed, always telling their tragedy, that we should stop hanging out with them. And that's something that I've actually done before in my life, and it is effective and it does work. But there's something else that happens in these jobs, because this is like being involved in student government, I'm quite convinced, is one of the most incredible jobs on the planet and one of the greatest experiences, because you get to do so much and you get to care so much about what you're doing while you're doing it. So while leadership is really lonely, it's really frightening, it's really terrifying, it can also be incredible and you can be deliriously happy. And something that I find a lot of student leaders will sometimes fall into is they'll be so happy with the way that things are and so happy with the way things are going, they're afraid to step outside of that comfort zone. So if there's a conflict on their team where you know that two people aren't getting along, but you don't want to bring it to the surface because you're afraid that will ruin things, that will make your year not go well. If there's a conflict with the administration, and right now you have a good relationship with your administration, you don't want to have to confront them about it because you're afraid that will ruin things. And that's a very real feeling, and it's something to be okay. It's okay to be afraid, but you really have to step outside of that comfort zone. And you need to make changes as well that might not make you happier, they might not make things better, but they're really important changes to make. And in the end, really, in every situation where I've thought, bringing a confrontation to the surface, confronting my university, doing anything like that, it's always turned out better in the end than I thought it would. So just my sort of take-home message is, even if you're deliriously happy, things are great, it's really important to make changes anyway, because as student leaders, you have to be stepping outside of that comfort zone.
We had a lot of speakers who made big changes in their life, and I just want to add, you don't need to jump on a train or make a career change to make change in your life. It starts within you, and it doesn't matter where you are in your life, you can always make a change.
And one of the things that I've kind of realized over the time here is there are times where this job will just run you ragged, and you will be kind of at wit's end, just ready to collapse, and it's really important to take care of yourselves. There's always this misconception that you don't want to seem like you're being selfish and stuff, so you always just give, and you never really take care of yourself. But it's really important to make sure that you spend a little time to focus on yourself and to improve yourself and to make sure that you're happy doing what you're doing. It'll affect the people around you and it'll make you better at what you're doing. Sure.
One thing that I learned this weekend that I thought was different or interesting was, for a long time I believed that putting happiness first was selfish. And so with this job, you think that if I make other students who are coming to my events happier, if I make everybody happy, it's all going to be great. But Patrick Finn kind of pointed out something that was pretty eye-opening, and yeah, it's nice to have someone tell me that I shouldn't let school be the be-all, end-all of life. It's kind of a good reminder, and that it's a good thing to take the time to make yourself happy, because then it affects everyone around you who loves you, cares for you, or is affected by you. So.
One thing that really resonated with me this weekend was Dr. Patrick Finn's lecture. And I'm going to pick something here that may not seem quite like it's all that important to leadership, but I'll get to my point, trust me. So he brought up the fact, I thought this was really interesting, that by 2030 computers will be able to outthink the average human. And I went, shit. That's kind of a big deal. There's going to be lots of people that will lose their jobs because of this. Cashiers, it's already started. You've got self-checkouts, and I refuse to use those. They confuse the hell out of me. But I started wondering, how can we help these people who are going to end up losing their jobs to computers, these crazy smart computers? And I realized we need to keep doing what we're doing right now. We need to keep advocating for accessible post-secondary education, because the skills that we gain in our education at a post-secondary institution, skills like critical thinking, being able to analyze a problem, being able to look at it from multiple angles, and being able to come up with a creative solution to that. That's what's going to become important. That's something that a computer can never take and do themselves. So what we need to do is we need to keep doing what we're doing. We need to keep plugging away and keep trying to make post-secondary education the norm. When you graduate high school, you go on, you get your education. But we want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. So that's the one piece that I got from this whole week, is that we're doing something that is of importance, and we need to keep going with that. So
I think that there are things you can especially learn, and I'm really, really glad that Patrick Finn, Professor Patrick Finn yesterday pointed out, and it really stuck with me, was when he closed his presentation, he said ultimately is, I may have just given you an agenda, but you don't have to listen to me, which is sometimes something I don't think we hear too often, is, I have a set of rules for you, you can follow it, and he closed his with, take it or leave it. And I kind of like that. It kind of reminds me that you can test the waters a little bit. You can see what works and what doesn't work for you. You don't have to necessarily take on someone else's, nobody likes to be dictated to. And that was something else you mentioned, was taking pride in yourself and making yourself a better person, and improving yourself so that you're someone that other people want to follow. And it's not about, giving out a set of rules to everyone else. And yeah, I guess once again, make the choice for yourself, be critical. And that just hit it home for me.